Well, well, everyone. It seems our unsophisticated daughter-in-law will be gracing us with a song. Come on, get on stage already, you plain Jane, my mother-in-law sneered. It was my sister-in-law's wedding reception, and she had insisted I perform a solo. As usual, my mother-in-law found a way to demean me. Her nerve to humiliate me even at such a celebratory event bewildered me. What's taking so long? Hurry up. She's getting impatient. Her tone sharpened. Fine then, I'll do it. Excuse me. I stood up from my seat and walked deliberately towards the stage. I'm Erica, 33 years old. I live with my husband Paul, also 33, and our 4-year-old daughter Janice. We've been married for 8 years. I lost my parents as a child and was raised by my grandparents. Wanting to ease their burden, I dropped out of high school and started working at a local factory. Paul and I attended the same high school and reconnected at a reunion when we were 21. We hit it off and started dating. 3 years after Paul graduated from university, we got married. Since then, I've been supporting my husband, managing our household, and raising our daughter while working part-time. Lately, Janice has been asking me, "Mom, teach me how to sing." Neither Paul nor I intend to force music on her, but I've always loved it. I was the president of the choir club in high school and still enjoy singing, even taking voice lessons as a hobby. When Paul and I are home together, I often sing along to his music, which may be why Janice has developed a natural interest in music. "I want to sing as beautifully as you do, Mom," she said with a smile. Seeing her joy, I couldn't help but smile back. When I shared this with Paul, he was delighted, saying, "It's wonderful that she's enjoying music." We both agreed that a professional should teach her the fundamentals of singing, so we decided to take her to the vocal coach I frequently visit the next day. I hope that one day, Janice and I can perform together with Paul's music. With these happy thoughts, I drifted off to sleep that night. 3 days later, after returning home from shopping, my mother-in-law called. Ever since she learned I dropped out of high school when I married Paul, she's been critical of me. Frankly, she's not my favorite person. She often throws insults like, "Can't you even do that? You're so slow. Your parents must have been terrible, which is why you dropped out of high school." I wonder if she's going to say something unpleasant again. With a sense of dread, I answered her call. "Hello, is Janice there right now?" "I'm sorry. She's at her voice lesson at the moment. She's not home." As soon as I said that, I realized my mistake. But it was too late. "Why didn't you inform me before letting her attend such things? You don't think things through. I'll teach her myself." My mother-in-law, like Paul, graduated top of her class from a prestigious music academy. She's a very accomplished musician and dotes on our daughter, showering her with love. However, her accomplishments have made her somewhat condescending about music and education. Paul and his sister were rigorously trained by her in the past, to the point where they began to resent music. I'm afraid the same thing might happen with her granddaughter. It would be a problem if Janice, who has just started enjoying music, began to dislike it because of the strict way it's taught. Mother-in-law, I appreciate your offer, but I want Janice to have the freedom to explore this. She won't improve if she's just playing around. Make her quit right now. Even if you say that, it's really up to Janice. I can't force her to quit. I'm certain it would be better if I taught her. With that, she abruptly ended the call. 3 months passed, and I had almost forgotten about the incident when my mother-in-law decided to visit our home. It's been a while, hasn't it? How's Janice been doing? She seemed happy to see her granddaughter after so long. As soon as she stepped into our home, she immediately scooped Janice into her arms, barely acknowledging us. It just so happened that Janice had a day off from her voice training class, and the whole family was at home. "Granny, I've gotten good at singing," Janice exclaimed, boasting to her grandmother. "Really? Could you sing something for me?" Worried about what my mother-in-law might say to Janice, I intervened. How about we eat first before we hear her sing? It's lunchtime after all. Trying to distract her, I hoped to delay the moment. But don't interrupt when she's about to sing for me. My mother-in-law dismissed my suggestion with a single comment. I'm sorry, Janice dear. Can you sing for me? She asked. Hearing her request, Janice began to sing. From the perspective of my mother-in-law, who graduated as the valedictorian of a music conservatory, my daughter's singing might sound rather unpolished. I had a sinking feeling inside me, worried that my daughter might receive some critical remarks. However, my mother-in-law applauded and praised her, saying, "You did well. You've practiced a lot." Far from making any sarcastic comments, she genuinely complimented her. "Thank you, Grandma," my daughter beamed, happy to be praised. I sighed in relief, realizing that even my strict mother-in-law wouldn't criticize her granddaughter. "I thought Mom might say something," Paul whispered to me, looking relieved. Nothing particular happened after that, but as evening came, I noticed that Janice had fallen asleep. "Excuse me, mother-in-law, since Janice has fallen asleep, I'll take her to her room." I picked up Janice and carried her to her bedroom. After I tucked her in, I returned to the living room. As soon as I came back, my mother-in-law said, "Didn't you think Janice's singing was awful, Erica? It's a waste of money to send her to a class that can only teach her to that level. I'll teach her myself." I guess that's what she concluded after hearing my daughter sing. But as I said before, we can't decide that without considering Janice's feelings. If you keep saying such soft things, that's all she will ever be able to sing, my mother-in-law retorted, clearly unwilling to listen to anything I had to say. I looked to Paul for support, but when it came to music, he couldn't stand up to his mother and remained silent. About 5 minutes of tense silence followed, and it was Paul who eventually gave in, saying, "All right, Mom, go ahead and teach Janice to sing for a while." Hearing those unbelievable words from Paul's mouth, my mind went blank. Is this some kind of joke? Don't they care how Janice feels after she has been so happy about her music lessons? What if Janice ends up hating music because of her grandmother's strict teaching? Wait a minute, isn't that a bit too selfish? I confronted Paul, anger welling up inside me. What can we do when it comes to music? She's much better than me, and it's a fact that I improved by being taught by her. My anger was so intense that I felt like waking up Janice right then and leaving the house with her. "So, I guess this means Janice is quitting her voice training class," I said. My mother-in-law had a triumphant look on her face, but I added, "All right, but remember, this is not a music conservatory, so please absolutely do not push Janice into anything she dislikes. I know you think I'm not as educated as you, but respect her feelings." I said what I had to say, knowing she would never back down, and let her leave for the day. That night my husband apologized for his mother's behavior, but I didn't even want to look at him. I ignored him and went to bed. The next morning I told my daughter Janice, "From today, instead of going to the voice training class, let's have Grandma teach you to sing here at home, all right?" When she heard this, she looked very sad, but said nothing, and just nodded. "I'm sorry," I said, seeing her disappointment, and all I could do was apologize. At noon, my mother-in-law arrived at our home. "Janice, starting today, Grandma is going to teach you to sing even better," she said to my daughter with a smile. As soon as the lesson began, her teaching style became increasingly strict. Within an hour, it was, "You're wrong. You're making the same mistake in the same place. Do it again." I knew it would turn out like this, and I regretted my decision. "Mother-in-law, this isn't what we agreed to, is it? Could you be a bit gentler?" I asked. "What are you talking about? I'm being gentle. Don't interfere. Why don't you quietly do some housework that you can hardly handle?" 4 hours passed, and at last my mother-in-law's lesson ended. "Well, see you tomorrow. Remember to practice what we did today," she said as she left, seemingly pleased with herself. "If I'm going to get yelled at this much, I don't want to sing anymore," Janice said, seated in her chair. I felt intense hatred for my mother-in-law like I'd never felt before. She had taken away what my daughter enjoyed, caring only about her satisfaction. This cannot go on. I won't let my mother-in-law have her way. Her singing lessons continued in the days that followed. However, after about a week, Janice told me, "I don't want Grandma to teach me anymore. I don't want to sing." Given my mother-in-law's strict teaching style, I thought it couldn't be helped. You don't have to force yourself. If you want to quit, that's okay too. "So, you don't want to go back to the voice training class?" I asked, hoping she would consider it, as she had initially been excited about it. Janice hadn't come to hate singing itself. It seemed that the harsh words from her grandmother, and the lack of praise even when she felt she did well, were making it unenjoyable for her. "Why don't you go back to your voice training lessons and give it another shot?" I suggested gently. Janice perked up and nodded enthusiastically. The next day, I called my mother-in-law to relay Janice's decision. "I'm sorry to say this, but from tomorrow, Janice will be returning to her original voice training classes." "How can she whine about giving up after just a week? Isn't it your fault for raising such a weak-minded child?" my mother-in-law snapped. "Well, it might be, but even though you graduated top of your class from a prestigious music college, it seems that's the only way you know how to teach. Janice told me that she prefers her voice training teacher," I replied calmly. As I retorted, my mother-in-law fussed and fumed over the phone, but I ignored her and hung up. Whether she was top of her class or not, it was quite satisfying that her teaching method had led to her being disliked by her granddaughter, who preferred her voice training teacher. After that, the visits from my mother-in-law ceased. "I've spoken to your mother and told her it was okay if she didn't come to teach anymore," I informed Paul. "Janice said she didn't want it anymore either." I also felt like I had done something unforgivable to Janice. My mother had been very strict with me about music when I was young, so I hadn't spoken up sooner. But I thought my mother-in-law wouldn't be so harsh on her granddaughter. "I'm sorry," he said. That night, when I told Paul about this, he seemed deeply regretful and apologized. "I was so angry when you suggested quitting Janice's voice training class and having your mother teach her instead," I confessed. "I almost felt like punching you." But fortunately, Janice didn't come to hate music, so I decided to forgive him. 2 weeks later, Paul said, "My sister is getting married in a month, and she asks us to perform." I had never performed at someone else's wedding before. "What kind of performance is she expecting?" I asked. "I was planning to bring a few people from my band and do a small concert, but my sister wants you and my mother to sing as well," Paul explained. I wasn't particularly thrilled about the idea, but hearing that my mother-in-law would also be performing, I reluctantly accepted Paul's suggestion. "So, does that mean I'll be singing with your mother?" "Well, yeah, that's how it seems." Singing with my mother-in-law of all people, I wondered if it would be all right, but if I happen to sing better than her at this performance, I wonder what she'll say. I started practicing the very next day, but my mother-in-law showed no signs of preparing at all. "Mother, aren't you going to practice?" I asked out of curiosity. "I'm fine. I'm much better than you, even without practicing." "Practice is for people who aren't naturally talented like me," she replied with her usual sarcasm. I decided engaging with her was a waste of time and focused on my preparations. After we decided on the song for the performance, I increased the frequency of my voice training lessons. I was tired of my mother-in-law's ridicule and, above all, anxious about singing in public after such a long time without proper training. On the day of my sister-in-law's wedding, the ceremony went smoothly, and the time for the entertainment finally came. First, my husband Paul took the stage and began to play his music. As expected, given he plays regularly, he was confident and exuded an elegant aura. I was utterly mesmerized by Paul's performance. I'm not feeling well today. Could you sing on your own? My mother-in-law suddenly told me. What? That's so sudden, it's not fair, I protested. Well, there's nothing we can do about it. Or what? Are you too embarrassed to sing in front of others because you're uneducated and ugly? She said without a hint of remorse. Okay, I know it. She's doing this on purpose. I thought and decided to retort. Being uneducated and ugly, I've practiced hard so I won't be embarrassed singing in front of others. I asked you several times if you needed to practice, but you showed no signs of doing so. Could it be that you're such a terrible singer? That's not true. My mother-in-law raised her voice in response. The people around us began to stir, wondering what was going on. I'm sorry, it's nothing, I murmured as I got up from my seat, apologized to those around me, and then confronted my mother-in-law. Graduating as valedictorian from the music college, you sure talk big about teaching others, huh? Are you avoiding singing with me because you're embarrassed that I might outshine you? What did you say? There's no way that's true. If I sing with someone uneducated and ugly like you, it would only bring me down. Didn't your parents teach you that you and your parents are truly incompetent? She disparaged me, insulting not just me but my parents in front of everyone. Embarrassed and angry, I wanted to leave right then, but running away would only please her. What are you doing just sitting there? Hurry up and go. Fine then, I will. Excuse me, I replied. Just as Paul's performance ended, I took his place on stage. Originally, I was supposed to sing with my mother-in-law, but as she's not feeling well, I'll be performing solo. Instead of the planned song, I chose an opera aria from The Marriage of Figaro, a piece I had practiced intensely during my competitive singing days. As I began to sing, the years of vocal training paid off, and I delivered with excellent vocal control, achieving the most beautiful vibrato I had ever produced. It was a remarkable moment. The audience was captivated by my performance, exclaiming, "Wow, her voice is incredible." And, "Is she a professional?" When I finished without a hitch, the audience rose to their feet in a standing ovation, showering me with thunderous applause. "Congratulations on your wedding, sister-in-law," I addressed the newlyweds. "I used to lead the choir in high school, and it's been a while since I sang in front of an audience, so I was a bit nervous. How did I do? Thank you all for listening." With that, I returned to my seat. My daughter, wide-eyed and impressed, pleaded, "Mom, your voice was so beautiful. Can you teach me next time?" Watching this, my mother-in-law, clearly jealous, muttered, Anyone can sing like that. Don't get ahead of yourself," seizing every opportunity to belittle my singing. Just as I thought the entertainment segment was over, my sister-in-law unexpectedly said, "Mother-in-law, and you should sing too." It was unexpected, and my mother-in-law looked at her daughter in confusion. "I've never heard you sing, Mom, and since you taught me so much about music when I was young, I'd love to hear you sing," my sister-in-law expressed sincerely. The attendees chimed in, "Mother-in-law, you should sing." Word had spread that my mother-in-law was a top graduate of a prestigious music school, and the crowd grew excited about her performance, creating an atmosphere where she felt compelled to sing. "Well, with all this, I guess you have to sing now, don't you?" I couldn't resist adding. All right, if you insist," she responded, making her way to the stage. The moment my mother-in-law took the stage, the energy in the room peaked. But as she began to sing, wait, no way. I might even be a better singer, murmurs could be heard throughout the crowd. She must have heard them too. My mother-in-law's voice seemed off, and her singing was quite poor. Despite her usual criticisms of others' singing, her pitch was all over the place. Honestly, I felt I was still the better singer. The atmosphere grew awkward as her performance ended. Unlike when I sang, the venue was filled with a cold atmosphere and the applause was sparse. It seemed everyone acted as if they'd seen something they shouldn't have, as if her turn had never happened. Upon returning to our table, my mother-in-law, her face flushed red, shouted at me, "That's why I didn't want to sing. If you had sung properly, my daughter wouldn't have asked me to do this." Her tone was angry, but I couldn't understand why. I think my sister-in-law genuinely wanted her mother to sing. It seemed like she wanted the wedding to be blessed by your voice, which has influenced her music since childhood. I said, "Do you think so?" To me, it seemed like she wanted to embarrass me. My mother-in-law's response astonished me. Despite her critiques of others' music and performances, she didn't want to sing in public because she knew she wasn't good at it. She never hesitates to criticize others' music. Yet when it comes to her singing, she suddenly, "I don't accept criticism." Such self-centeredness is unacceptable. My daughter Janice's newfound love for music might be crushed by her grandmother. I couldn't bear my mother-in-law's attitude any longer. "So someone who studied at a prestigious music school and critiques others' music can only sing this poorly. Well, mother-in-law, isn't it fortunate you were able to sing along instead of alongside a terrible singer like me?" I retorted sarcastically. "How dare you say that? It's your fault I had to embarrass myself." "It's not appropriate to say such things in front of your daughter." "I'm sure she enjoyed hearing her mother sing," I remarked, silencing my mother-in-law. There was a stir among those who overheard our exchange, but otherwise the ceremony continued smoothly without incident. 2 days later, my mother-in-law stormed into our house. "I can't just let this go. I demand an apology for what happened," she declared, catching me off guard. I shot back, "What exactly am I supposed to apologize for? I didn't realize your singing would be so poor. If anything, I believe you owe us an apology." "What do you mean?" "I have nothing to apologize for. You forced me to sing a song I disliked and made a fool of myself," she insisted. "No, not to me, but to Janice. Because of your actions, Janice almost lost her love for music that she had just started to enjoy." Despite your education at a prestigious music school, why would you jeopardize a child's burgeoning interest in music just because things didn't go your way? Is that what they taught you there? I received no musical training from you, yet I sang at the reception and even received applause. How about you, mother-in-law? Would you like some singing lessons? "I'd be happy to give you some thorough instruction," I challenged. My mother-in-law was left speechless by my words. "If you have nothing else to discuss, please leave. I won't tolerate your interference with our daughter or my husband's music any longer," I concluded firmly. With that, my mother-in-law left our home without another word. Her shoulders slumped in defeat. I felt a deep sense of satisfaction from having retaliated so assertively in her domain of expertise, music. It reaffirmed the value of continuing my voice training since my youth. Without it, I might not have garnered such applause at my sister-in-law's wedding reception. I wonder how my mother-in-law, who always boasted about graduating top of her class from a prestigious music school, felt being scolded like that by someone like me, who only has a high school diploma and was merely a choir member, I admitted to myself. There was poetic justice in the situation. Serves her right. Maybe now she won't act so haughty, I thought to myself. It had been a month since my sister-in-law's wedding, and while my mother-in-law occasionally visited our house, she no longer complained about my daughter's singing. I didn't mind her visits anymore, especially since she refrained from commenting on music. Janice had been making great strides in her singing lately, even tackling a challenging song assigned in her class. "Mom, this song is tough, but I'll try my best to sing it beautifully," Janice declared enthusiastically, practicing diligently. "That's wonderful. Give it your all. You'll do great," I encouraged her. Though I loved singing, I lacked technical knowledge, so I could only offer words of support. On one such day, my mother-in-law happened to visit our house and observed our interaction. "Erica, this song isn't something Janice can handle just by trying her best," she remarked. "Janice, pay close attention. It should sound like this," my mother-in-law continued, demonstrating incredible kindness and patience, qualities I hadn't expected from her based on past experiences. She patiently explained until Janice grasped the technique. "Oh, thank you, Grandma. It's much easier to sing now," Janice exclaimed gratefully, listening intently to her grandmother's advice. "Working hard to master her assignment, Erica. I used to look down on everyone doing music without graduating from a music college. But after meeting someone like you who can sing so beautifully without a music degree, I changed my mind. After all, we should enjoy music. Could you teach me to sing next time?" My mother-in-law's sincere words took me by surprise as we watched Janice practicing her assignment. It was a moment of unexpected understanding and reconciliation, a sign that perhaps our differences were finally bridged through music. It caught me off guard to hear such words suddenly, but I suspect the sarcastic comment I made after my sister-in-law's wedding had an impact. "My lessons are quite difficult, you know," I jokingly remarked to my mother-in-law. "Oh, I won't be overbearing anymore. I do regret how I treated Paul, too, though it's too late now. But if you can handle it, Erica, I'm ready." After that conversation with my mother-in-law, I felt reassured that she wouldn't criticize Janice's music anymore. Despite all that had transpired, the tension between us gradually eased, and since then, we've often gone to karaoke together, growing close enough to even sing duets. I hope that one day, as Janice continues to improve her singing, the four of us, me, Paul, Janice, and my mother-in-law, can have a fun